All right. Some compound inequalities. Now, a compound inequality consists of two separate inequalities joined by and or. So anytime something is a compound anything, usually the relationship that's drawn with a compound is the association with two. A compound subject in English is what? Two subjects, two or more subjects that share the same verb or predicate. Compound predicate, two or more verbs that share the same subject. A compound fracture in your arm or leg means the bone, that one bone, broke into two. Okay? So compound, as we think of it here too, we're going to combine two inequalities and kind of make them one. And the key phrases that we're going to use are and or. And each of them will have their own meanings, but it will become clear the difference. You know what and is. You know the difference between and or. Okay? Which is what, Marlia?
And is when you have one thing, one thing, two things. Or is either one or one or
Black and white means both. Black or white means one or the other.
You can't use or in the same sentence.
Okay? Right. All right, so the graph of a compound inequality with and is the intersection of the graphs of the inequalities. So let's focus on the and first of all and show you that. So here's the first example. We've got x is greater than -2. So let's graph this. And circle and shade it to the right. The next one we have is x is less than or equal to a -1. So we'll graph this. Less than or equal to would be a point and shaded to the left. Now the and tells us that whatever part is shared. Okay, so for a value to fit, for it to work, for this and this, it has to be the section of the number line that is shared by both of them. What part is shared by both of them? Marlia.
No, wait, no.
You're right, but you got to finish it.
Yeah.
What part is shared by both of them? So if I were to regraph showing the and, I would do it this way. Put our 0, locate our -1, locate our -2, because what's shared is this small little part in between the -2 and the -1. So since it was a circle here and a point there, that tiny little portion there is going to be the only part that they share. Give me a value that would be shaded. -1.5. Let's test that against both of these inequalities. Is -1.5 less than or equal to -1? Is it further away from 0? Yes, so I put a yes by that one. Negative 1.5. Is it greater than a negative 2? Is it a little bit closer to 0? So I could say yes there. But therefore, you're very limited on what can be used. Okay? But here, then we're going to rewrite the whole thing. So we'll put x in the middle. So we can say x is going to be greater than negative 2. X is greater than negative 2. I just flipped that first one. And it's also going to be less than or equal to a negative 1. Focus on the or. See, the and is the portion that they share. Okay? Let's focus on the or. First one, x is greater than or equal to 0. Next one, x is less than negative 1. It's always a good idea to put these, I can always put them on top of each other. So greater than or equal to 0 means I'm going to use what on the 0? A point, and shade which way? The right. X is less than negative 1 means I'm going to circle and shade which way? Now, do these share any part of the shading? No. So this is where you're going to have to say, this one here is going to be an or. Okay? Because I'm either going to be greater than 0 or equal to 0, or I'm going to be less than negative 1. How we graph them together? Okay, watch. It's really not that hard. I'm dealing with one x, so I'm going to go ahead and just put that x in the middle. Okay? So if I got x in the middle, I'm just going to take this and flip it over. X is greater than or equal to a 0. That one's done. It just got flipped, so I can keep the x in the middle. And x is less than a negative 1. Or because it's either going to be less than negative 1 or it's going to be equal to or greater than 0. Now they're going to have a solve. 2 is less than x plus 5 less than 9. Now, what's the difference here from what we've seen? It's not just an x in the middle now, is it? It's an x plus 5. Okay, so I'm going to use that x plus 5, and I'm going to use it for both of the inequalities. So the first one I'm going to solve is 2 is less than or equal to x plus 5. And the next one I'm going to solve is which one? X plus 5 less than 9. See how they kind of overlap? I'm going to solve for x for both of them. So over here, how are we going to get x by itself? Marlia. So if I'm at a 2 and I subtract 5, where does it put me? Okay, there's my first one. How am I going to get x by itself over here? Marlia. So if I subtract 5, x is going to be less than. Okay. So let's graph this. There's my 0. Let's just focus on the digits that we have. I think you can get away with not making 3 different graphs. I think we can get away with doing 1. So x is going to be greater than, it's going to be greater than a negative 3, right? When I flip this around and rewrite this, isn't the open end to the x? So I know I'm going to shade this way. X is also less than a 4. What part is going to shade that way? What part is going to be shared? Yes? Everything in between. And if we keep it as is, and not do this, then it's just a matter of saying, okay, negative 3 is less than x, x is less than 4. That is what we just graphed. Give me something here that would be shaded. How about 0? 0 plus 5 is what? Is 2 less than 5? 0 plus 5 is 5. Is 5 less than 9? Because it's shaded, it's a solution to both of those inequalities. Right? Try one. Six less than x plus, it's an x plus 5 again, less than or equal to 11. X plus 5. And the next one we're going to solve is x plus 5 less than or equal to 11. So in order to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 5, which is going to make it, x is going to be greater than 1. Over here, I'm going to subtract 5, and x is going to be less than or equal to 6. So if we look at our graph, and in relationship to 0, I have a 1, and I have a 6. This graph here tells me that x is going to be greater than 1. So I know I'm going to shade this way. And over here, it says less than 6. So I'm going to shade that way, which is going to share what portion? In between that 1 and 6. Okay? Now, Kate, you're right. You know, the 6 will be shaded all the way down. And the 1 will be shaded all the way down this way. But what you need to focus on is that area right there that's shared. Okay? So maybe it will help you to do separate graph of this and say, okay, x is greater than 1. And shade this way and do a separate graph of this and say 6 is going to shade this way, put them together and look and see what they would share. You could do that too. Okay? But that's what we're looking for. Okay, and then how would you rewrite this? 1 less than x, x less than or equal to 6. Questions? All right, give you another one. Ten is less than or equal to a 2y plus 4. And 2y plus 4 is less than or equal to 24.